Hello, everyone, and welcome to another elite episode of the Get Authentic with Marques show. I'm your host, Marques Ogden. On today's episode, we are joined by Mr. Rocky Steele. And you know what? Let's bring him on down. How you doing there, Rocky?
Hey, doing great, Marcus. So good to be with
Good.
you.
Good to have you here, my friend. You know, you are an awesome guy. We connected through one of my great friends, Wesley Anderson. You work with TruCordia. We've had Felix Morgan on our podcast. He was sensational, spoke for you all in February at the Phoenician, went great. And I'm actually coming out to Linden, Utah. I'm coming out on the 15th of April. And I will be doing something with you all on the 16th, a very, very exciting major project, which we're very excited about. So, Rocky, first question, please tell our global audience, what does authentic mean to you?
Thanks, Marcus. You know what? When I think about being authentic, and what authentic means to me is just something that's genuine. It's something that's original. It's the real thing. And when I think about it, it's really that simple. That is kind of what I think authentic means. Is just, again, it's genuine. It's the real deal. It's the original. And it is, you see what you get.
I love that. Ladies and gentlemen, you see what you get. And we need more of that. We need people like Rocky, like Felix, like Leslie, like Chelsea, these amazing, like Leanne, like all the amazing people at TruCordia. We need more of this, like what you see is what you get, which is exactly why they are so well respected in the industry. Rocky, please tell us more about your journey and then the work and how did you get to and the work you now do with TruCordia.
Yeah. So I grew up in Spokane, Washington, in a very blue collar neighborhood right over near the old Joe Albee Stadium near the VA hospital. And I grew up, I grew up in a large family and we worked really hard. Even though we were in the city, we, you don't think about kind of manual labor in the city, but we had paper routes, more than 1,000 papers that we delivered early in the morning before school. And for me, before early morning seminary. And I did that with my dad, and he owned some small businesses, and I helped with those as a boy, helped my grandparents up on their farm. And so hard work was always a part of what we did, who we were, my family, and just kind of the way I was raised. It never occurred to me, Marcus, that there was really any other way to live other than that, than just the hard work that we did. And when I was a teenager, my father got involved in insurance, and he partnered up with a very good friend of his, and they went into business together, and I was always in and around that. And so once I was old enough, I became a licensed insurance agent, and I did that in Spokane. And then when I went to college down at BYU in Utah here, I was a market development rep for another insurance company. And I stayed in insurance for several years, but went back to Washington and went to law school at Gonzaga. And
Hmm.
after Gonzaga, my career has been in business development and mergers and acquisitions across several different industries, tech and natural resources, and in insurance at TruCordia. So that's kind of what brought me to this moment. And Felix Morgan was a very good friend of mine. We connected many years ago. And so Felix recruited me to TruCordia, and I'm so glad he did. It's been an awesome ride.
You know what, Rocky, I love this. Ladies and gentlemen, a couple highlights. Rocky talked about hard work from a young age, delivering 1,000 papers before seminary with his dad. And then his dad and his dad's friend got into the insurance business. And Rocky learned there. So he could become old enough and become an agent. He did, and then went to college, and then still worked in that field. And then from there, went to law school at Gonzaga, and got his degree and continued education. And then what he did was he took the skills that he learned in his teaching and the time he was taught it at Gonzaga and throughout his entire life. And then he went into mergers and acquisitions, business development, and again, worked in many different industries. You heard him say tech, natural resources, now TruCordia. But I hope you heard the real shining light of that last segment. Felix and Rocky have known each other for years, and the relationship was built. It was forged. It was aligned. And Felix recruited Rocky to come and work for him at TruCordia. Ladies and gentlemen, we always talk about this. Relationships, it's not who you know, it's who knows and will vouch for you. Who will say, yes, this person is a great person? Yes, just like Felix Morgan will say, Rocky Steele is a top flight guy, full of integrity, full of, hard work. But again, it's all about putting in the effort, putting in the discipline, putting in the grit. And I love this. So, Rocky, I have one more question. I'm going to get into, your role at TruCordia, talk more about TruCordia, you all's mission, mantra, all that kind of awesome stuff. Here's my question, Rocky. How does being authentic help you excel in the career path you have chosen to embark upon? Because I really believe, Rocky, we interview people from all different backgrounds, but people might want to get into M&A, right? And they're trying to figure, oh, wow, what's in it for me, this podcast? Well, you know what? This is what's in it for you because you can hear from somebody how authentic helps them in their field. And if you want to get into that same field, you can learn from Rocky and his wisdom right now.
Love it. Well, thanks, Marcus. Yeah, you know, I have learned over time. I mean, I've learned over time that you just be who you are. And if you're working every day at improving yourself and being the best version of yourself, and if you can get that to be ingrained in part as part of who you are in the way that you approach life, the way that you approach your career, you're going to find that good things come to you. Um, just be open, be who you are, and make sure that you're on a track where you really are trying to improve yourself. You're identifying those weaknesses because we all have them. You're making those stronger. You're leaning into your strengths, and that the background that you come from. The reality is that I love a quote by Ralph Waldo Emerson that success is 1,000 times more likely to come from a cottage than a castle. And the reality is that when you have to fight, when you have to build, when you have to become, good things will come to you in your life, much more than they ever will, those things that are handed to you. And so for me, in mergers and acquisitions, Marcus, I just lean into my background. It's not a hard story to tell. It's just the way that it was. I learned how to work at a young age. Thank my father, my mother for that, and circumstances that I was born into. Um, and then have a good time, put a smile on your face, and just roll forward and go become. And if you'll go become, people will always be able to sense that authenticity. They'll be able to understand where you come from, and they'll be able to relate much more than they will if you're trying to put on a shiny veneer of something that's fake. They will sense that, they will smell it, they will see it a mile away. And it's really interesting because in some ways mergers and acquisitions can have, I mean, it's relationship based, but when you're doing a lot of it, as I've done in my career and as we do at TruCordia, there's a little bit of a speed dating component to that, where it really is, you don't have a lot of time. And if they look you in the eye and they get a sense of who you are, they'll be able to tell if you're just being open and honest with them about who you are and the company that you're with and what your intentions are. And they'll be willing to have a second discussion. But if they get a sense that you're not giving them the whole story, if they get a sense that you're giving them just a superficial veneer, that's not going to build trust. It's not going to go well. You have created a hurdle for yourself to overcome. And so I would say it's the only way is just like them, learn how to like people, learn how to build rapport with them, show them who you are, tell them the true story about yourself and about the company, and be willing to be open with them, open up a little bit and get down to a little bit, deeper than just, hey, here's our financials and here's how good we are and here's how great we are. Talk about your path, talk about the vision, and talk about where you want to go. And they'll sense it, and they're more likely to want to have a second discussion with you, and to give you a little bit of trust.
Rocky, this is great. Ladies and gentlemen, what I heard Rocky say is if you're not authentic, if you are trying to be fake and trying to come across as everything is perfect, Rocky, it reminds me of when me and my old business partner were trying to sell my construction company, his ownership to a buyer. And we were having some trouble. Like we were in really bad shape. And I remember telling my partner, let's tell them the truth. Let's tell them we're struggling and we need their infusion and we're our backs against the wall. Let's tell them. And he's like, no, 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 don't do that. You can't do that. These are my shares I'm selling. If you do that, they're going to devalue this. They're not going to want to work with us. Da, 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 da. Just don't say anything. So literally, my hands were tied because they weren't my shares. I was not selling mine. He was selling his to the buyer. But I just had a feeling that if we told him the truth, it would work out better. Well, lo and behold, we ended up getting a letter, a FedEx letter came to the door the day the guys were there to buy the company. And we ended up getting it was a letter like a demand letter for payment from a subcontractor. And they could tell something was off. This was in 2012 in the fall. And they could tell something was off. And I was like, let's just tell them. And they walked out. He didn't say a word. We got an email that next morning that they said they were pulling their offer. They could tell that something was wrong. They knew what came to the door was a demand letter. They didn't know for what, but they've seen that time and time again. And the fact we didn't tell them the truth, we weren't honest with them. They said they couldn't trust us. They couldn't trust our numbers. They couldn't trust our projections. And they said deal was off. And then about 2 weeks later, Rocky, bam, we go out of business and we're broke and that's it and it's over. Ladies and gentlemen, that is a classic story of if you are trying to do something, have integrity, have honesty, be authentic. It will make a positive difference. So, Rocky, speaking of integrity, positivity, for people that don't know TruCordia, please share some insight, some wisdom with our audience about TruCordia, your mission, and your mantra.
You know, Marcus, I love that story, by the way. I mean, that you just shared about your business. And you know what? I think you and I talked about this when I first met you in Scottsdale. One of the things that really popped for me was how honest, how open, authentic you were. And I think I mentioned that to you when we chatted later that I just loved it. It struck something with me. And it's always that way, isn't it? It is always that way,
Always.
just always. So for Trucordia, look, what I would say, I mean, I tell people all the time, I tell them about my good friend Felix, who I love working with. We, every single Felix Morgan meeting, we talk about our culture, our values. We talk about um, doing the right thing for the client and putting that first. We talk about collaborating together. We talk about doing it with integrity. We talk about celebrating together, making sure that we congratulate each other and that we do those things. It's just fundamental to who we are. It's who we have to be. Um, and we found, and I say this in so many meetings when I meet with agency owners around the country, and with brokerages, if you put the client first, if you put those traditional values first and you really try to do the right thing, then it turns out good things come for you in business. Good things will happen over time. Even if you jump, you pass by maybe a short-term gain opportunity, you're going to get good things over time. It just comes to you that way. But if you put the short-term gain always in front, unnatural things grow out of that, and bad things happen eventually, and problems that you have to solve that you wouldn't have otherwise. And so, it really comes back to you, and it comes back to us, we believe, just in the way that we try to live. And we're not perfect, but I share with every agency owner that I meet with, we are values driven, and we really are. It makes all the difference for us and brings us the success that we have. And so as we're out there meeting businesses and thinking about who we're going to partner with next and how we're going to go out there and double up the size that we are today, um, we lead with values. It's who we are, it's who we have to be, and we really do talk about it in every single meeting that we have with Felix and every single meeting that I have with prospective partners.
Now, Rocky, just so people get a little more context, TruCordia is a commercial insurance brokerage, and you all go around the country buying up individual agency-owned businesses in the commercial insurance space that align with you all's values. Am I saying that correct?
Yeah, that's right. Mm-hmm.
Yep, awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, and here's the thing. I hope you gained and gathered the key word that Rocky said in that last segment. He said a lot of great things, but that key word, partnership, right? He said in order for TruCordia to double the size and grow the way they want to grow, they want to partner with the right agencies. I always say be a collaborative partner, not a vendor. A vendor, you will shop and get the cheapest price. If someone's seen in your eyes as a vendor, if somebody comes along with a cheaper price, you're going to move on from that vendor. When it is a collaborative partner, you're going to work with that person and you're going to make sure you all can align to the scope of work, the price, and the execution, and everybody wins. So, again, be seen as a collaborative partner, not a vendor. So, Rocky, so with inside the amazing organization of TruCordia, you are in business development, merchant acquisitions. Can
Yep.
you please shed some light? So it sounds like to me, you're kind of the guy that is going out to these different agencies, meeting with people, and like you said, quote unquote speed dating, trying to see who aligns with TruCordia's values and who you all feel with the right partnership, the right infusion, that it could be even a more successful business, and then that individual wins and TruCordia wins. Shed some more light for our audience that are listening, right, Rocky? Some of your day-to-day tasks for TruCordia.
Yeah. Well, it's a lot of fun. I really love what I do. It is one of the funnest jobs, business development in general, and then the mergers and acquisition side. So I meet with agencies and financial networks and banks of agencies that are looking for that next step in their business, that are looking for who they should partner with. And that there's a transaction involved in that. There is a sale, but we really think about it as a partnership where we need to win together. And so that's what I spend a lot of my time doing. I've got some great analysts on my team. We dig deep into the numbers. I really enjoy that part as well, getting into the nitty gritty. But where I spend a lot of my time is on that relationship side, is getting to know them and getting to understand them, and understand what has brought them to this step, what sort of business did they build, and then what has brought them to this step where they're looking to partner or have a transaction. But for us, Marcus, it's really important for us that they, in almost every case, that they want to stick around, that they want to be a part of the business, that they want to be a part of the team, and that there's a go forward plan together. So it really is kind of a unique, it really is a unique structure where we want to grow together, and we want to take what they've done, and bring it in as part of TruCordia. And so for that reason, they have to be the right people. They have to have that care, that collaborative, that leadership, and results oriented mindset. And so that's a good bit of what I spend my time doing. Just to say it, I mean, a lot of that is over the phone or is on Zoom, but I get out face to face. I mean, last week I was in New York with a couple of fantastic agency owners in northern New Jersey and in Brooklyn, and yesterday I was in Seattle. And it's really important for me that as we get close to maybe that point where we are going to decide to partner together, and we go through a process, a lot of boring things with letter of intent, et cetera, but things that we have to have in place. It's really important to me to sit down with them, spend a little bit of time and let them look me in the eyes, and for me to be able to spend some time, shake their hand, and have a meal together, and really talk, about what the go forward looks like.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the sign of an individual that understands how to do business. I love what Rocky said. Go and meet people, sit down with them, look them eye to eye, shake their hand, have a meal, have a conversation. The numbers are very important, but beyond that, the ability to connect with people, build relationships with people, that's everything. Because at the end of the day, like I always say, people do business with who they know, like, and trust. I'm having dinner with Felix on the 15th in Utah. I can't wait because I know at that meeting I'm going to get more wise by just shutting up and listening to somebody that has all the experience and knows what's going on in not just the business world, just in life in general. Like Felix has been through this a lot of life. And ladies and gentlemen, and that's my next question, right, Rocky? This is something I want to talk about in the thing we're doing with TruCordia. I think this will help people if they're stuck trying to like grow their pipeline, right? Be more interested in people than trying to be interesting to people. So being more interested means you're asking questions and you're listening. When you're trying to be interesting, you're talking all the time, which is why I love this podcast because I'm more interested in Rocky Steele than being interesting to Rocky Steele. Rocky, talk about how it's so important for people to be successful. They need to learn how to be more interested in others, not try to be interesting to others.
Oh, I just love that so much, Marcus. I mean, it comes from it really comes from within first. You have to care. And if that doesn't come natural, the reality is that for a lot of us in life, I mean, we are thinking about, sometimes the way that we grow as children is we're thinking about what's next for us, what's next for us. If we can think about changing ourselves and caring about others first, then it's going to come more naturally for us as we start to think about, I really need to care what they say. I need to care what they say, not just so that I have a good response, but so that I can get to know them. And so, if we can do that, if we'll first care about who they are and what their story is and try to think, how can I help them? Again, it's incredible the good things that come back to us as we just make that subtle change. At the same time, or I guess I should say, on the flip side, if we're just waiting for them to be quiet so we can get our next words in, man, they can tell if we're just waiting for that next funny response that we want to give, or the next time we can interject and interrupt them, and we almost can't help ourselves from interrupting them. Slow down, care what they say, care what their journey is, think about how you can try to help them. And those become some ways that for me they help me to focus on the right thing of really getting to know them. And when it's incredible, when people feel heard, when people feel that you genuinely care, man, they're going to remember that. And I know there's some really smart people that have said this over time, but people will remember how you made them feel much more than what you said to them. And I know some really smart people have said that over the years, but it turns out that it's true. And they'll come away with that good feeling. And man, it's amazing the next time you see them. And it really comes from out of that root of just caring about them and trying to figure out how I can help them, trying to figure out where the synergies in our businesses are and where there's an opportunity to do some cool things together. And it just makes all the difference.
You know, what's really fantastic is it's all about making the big difference in people's lives. It's all about adding value to people. And really and truly, what it's about is having that mindset, that ability to really be able to thrive through any type of situation. Rocky, you mentioned earlier that recording is not perfect. Nobody's perfect. No organization, no person, nothing. It's not possible. It's not feasible. But what I always say is if you're trying to be the best you can be constantly, and trying to chase and climb to the next summit all the time. Now we're talking. Rocky, can you please explain to our global audience what are some things that you really find are very like similar or very much aligned with those agency owners that you all end up partnering with? Because there's got to be some sort of like, commonalities that they have. Because what happens, right, Rocky, with your expertise and then sharing that with the audience, I feel if they're not doing it, then they should start working on trying to improve those commonalities to get better and get better alignment in their business.
Yeah. One of the things that I come across all the time with the right people, or people that are aspiring to continue to improve, even if just like all of us, they're not perfect yet. That's all good. It's a lifelong process. Just keep at it, and we'll keep trying to get better. And those that are doing that, with that I meet with, they tend to put the client first. That's one of the biggest indicators. That goes across any business. They tend to put the client first, and they're trying to do that. And it's hard because in business, there's always these opposing forces, right? There's that, make the profit today, meet the sales quota, or, get the sale tied up, or get the product sold, whatever that is. That's always there. There's that pressure on one side, but the other is to make sure that your North Star is always serving that client best. And when they're doing that, we see that they've built really nice, stable businesses that have solid numbers over time. And you can see kind of as they have that incremental growth year over year, as opposed to that flash in the pan. And the reason why is really simple. They put those fundamentals in place that are far more than, a single successful marketing campaign, or, whatever that looks like, that might drive sales or success for a short period of time. It's really incredible that when they have that that client facing view, and when they tell me, for example, in insurance, that they won't place business with a carrier that they know doesn't pay out claims. And why? Well, they might get the sale on day one, but they know that somebody is going to be unhappy down the line. And it doesn't, again, they might get that sale the one time, but they lose, the relationship and the trust and the good faith of the people that have, trusted them for their insurance needs. And so, that's what I would say is, when you find when you find those values based brokerages, those people that are really truly trying to do the right thing for the client, it translates into consistent growth over years. And we'll do a look back at their finances over a 5-year period, and you just see it. Now, there can be events that happen. There's industry or market conditions, et cetera, that can have, a one-time event that makes things really hard for them. But over time, you just see it like a domino stack, just get a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger, because they've earned that trust and faith. So that is one of the really common denominators that we see. And it works great for us because we're trying to do the same thing. Again, nobody's perfect, but we're trying, very hard to have that at the forefront of our minds every single day.
Rocky, as I knew it would be, my friend. Fantastic interview, great insight, great wisdom, practical knowledge for anybody listening. Great specific industry knowledge around what you look for in the insurance space, the numbers, the policies, how people shouldn't work with people that don't, pay their claims, like how to be smart, right? Long play. Love that. Rocky, how can people get in touch with you if they're listening right now and they own their own insurance agency and they're like, I wonder if we are a good partner fit for TruCordia? How can our audience get in touch with Rocky Steele?
Oh, they can hit me right up in my direct email, Rocky at TruCordia. It turns out that when your name is Rocky, you get the whole domain for the company. So Rocky at TruCordia, ROCKY at TruCordia.com, and email me there. I'd love to hear from you directly. Also, you can find me on LinkedIn. There's also a link on the front page of the website that you can go to as well. But love to hear from them. Marques, what a pleasure. I love listening to Marques Ogden. Looking forward to our event next month. Actually, this month now. It is April now.
April 1st,
I
yeah.
can't wait to hear and to get to spend more time with you, just as we did down in Arizona and in the other conversations. Honestly, everybody listening, Marques is one of the best, a great hero out there giving people good advice. And I just love it, Marques. Can't wait for our next chance to talk together.
Rocky, I will see you soon. And ladies and gentlemen, the authentic tip of this great interview. It's a classic saying, but it's a powerful saying. Consistency beats intensity every single time. Be consistent. That's how you win in life. Be consistent and follow through. And be disciplined and do the little things that others won't do. It will make all the difference in your business and in your life. Again, my name is Marques Ogden. I am the host of the Get Authentic with Marques show. Thanks for tuning in. Have a fantastic day.